Okay, good morning. This is the Thursday, October 13th, 2022 meeting of the Public Service Standing Committee of the Gardner City Council. All members of the committee are present. We'll start with department updates and the Public Works, Sewer and Water. Mr. Arnold, you're up.
Well, we're down in the Robillard area with the DPW and the paving. We're installing berms and prepping sidewalks. We're doing, I think there's 32 handicap ramps that we're installing down there, all concrete with the panels. And we're backfilling the sidewalks. And right now we're also prepping some of the driveways because it's kind of tough for some driveways to get in and out. So we're just putting a base coat in and preparing for that. I don't have a date on when we're coming in to raise the structures and put a top coat in, but obviously we're up against the weather.
We're getting there.
We're in there. So, but we're working on it. I think we should be finished with the berms probably by Tuesday of next week. And we're, like I said, the DPW preps the concrete panel ramps, and there's a company that comes in and they pour the concrete and put the panels in. It's a long process as far as it's probably going to take a couple of weeks to get that done. Once that's in, then they can start paving. And
come in.
Went to the wrong building at first. Thank you.
What's up?
Good morning. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that's kind of what's going on in the Robillard area. We've pulverized and raised the structures up on Kendall and Warwick, and we're also doing the very end of Traverse Street from the bridge out to West Broadway. It was kind of in bad shape. It's right around the corner, so we're going to try to tie that in and redo the sidewalk. It's probably a 400-foot stretch at that. So that's getting done as well. There was an island at the intersection, and there was a giant intersection, so we've kind of narrowed it up and made it kind of square and perpendicular to West Broadway as well.
I've seen that intersection before.
What's that?
I've seen that intersection before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's nice. Any questions on paving or?
This is they'll go as far as they can with the weather permits, or do we have?
We'll get it done. I mean, unless we have a Halloween storm, but yeah, we'll get it done.
Low rates of calcium chloride,
Yeah.
concrete.
Well, and I don't know if when we pulverized, we did something a little different this year. When we pulverized in the Robillard, Douglas area, in our spec we added calcium chloride, which they mix it right in with
The asphalt?
with the pulverized the gravel. And we got some pretty substantial rain events down, and it seemed to hold up good. It didn't wash away, so we're going to run that. It costs probably 2% more.
What's the advantage of it?
Water doesn't get down in it, it's dust control.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a combination of things. But it held up well, we thought.
They use that as well to extend the life of concrete as well, don't they? Is it calcium chloride?
Calcium, yep, they do. Yep.
How far into the weather they can go? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Any questions?
We're getting a hockey rink, like a small skating rink actually, not hockey rink, a skating rink that it's, I think it's 60 by 100, something like that. And we're going to install it. It's just temporary, put it up during the course of the winter, and we're looking at the basketball courts down on Jackson Playground. So we'll install it ourselves, and it's a rubber matting and we'll fill it with a pumper truck or something and fill it with water and whatnot. So as long as it's cold out, we'll have a nice little skating rink down in there.
Will there be a way to plow it, or?
We're hoping the public, as we did as kids, would shovel off the skating rink. What we are trying to do is we're trying to figure out how to get power down there to possibly have it at night. Not all night, but till
Have some evening hours?
yeah, maybe till 8 or something, so it doesn't disturb the neighborhood. But at least it's something. We're just maybe get a generator down there, hook some lights up, straight between the basketball courts or something like that. So
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we're doing some sewer main televising in the city. We're spending about 45 to 50K. So they go in, and we're trying to do a lot of our easements that haven't been looked at in years. So they go and they clean, there's a back truck, they'll clean the line. to flush the sewer system, and then they go down and they televise it, and we've got a report, you know.
We're looking for leaks?
Yeah, we're looking for cracked sewer lines, and actually we found one up on Dyer Street, to the point where we might have to excavate it probably as early as between now and spring to make the repair and then have it slip on. So, at some point in the spring, I'll be coming to the council to ask for, I don't have the cost yet, but probably a couple $100,000 for this company to come in and slip line all this.
Yeah, I was wondering about, that's what was gonna be my question, they're gonna, in the areas that need it, you know, it's called slip line?
Slip lining or
Yeah.
relining or.
Inside relining.
Yeah, so what it does is it reduces the groundwater from seeping into the pipes, and eventually that ends up down the wastewater plant, and then we're spending money treating groundwater, so it's kind of a money savings as well. So.
Is there an issue with the reduction in the diameter of the pipe?
It does reduce it, but if you're going from, say, a jaggedy clay into a nice smooth PVC, you actually get a better flow.
The flow is
even though
quicker,
it's-
yeah, at least for a while.
Yeah. So it's going on with televising. The sludge landfill, I believe, is in Concom hand right now, and they're reviewing, I believe you hired a third party, correct me if I'm wrong, a third party tie-in bond to review the submittal, and you should probably be getting some back in a couple of weeks, hoping, or.
Hopefully next week, because I know they've already started. They were given those notice to proceed a couple weeks ago, so, yeah, well, and it was only supposed to be like a 2 to 3 week job, so.
Is there, it's a limited review or a targeted review of some kind?
It's not gonna be, yeah, it's not gonna be a review of the entire report, only the portions of the report that the Concom has jurisdiction over.
Right. And as a percentage of the entire report, do you have a sense of?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, but you're expecting their response fairly soon?
Yeah.
Okay, and what happens then?
Then we go to the
Then
conservation.
they have to act on it?
Yeah, we'll do an internal review. We'll meet with after we review, we'll meet with the third-party reviewer and then transfer all that over to the commission itself.
For
for the
further
next
action?
meeting. Yeah. Either the meeting on the 24th this month or the first meeting in November.
And
Any
we're-
questions about the sludge landfill or anything else that's been addressed? Shoot.
The DPW was down at one point over the course of the summer. We were down about 9 guys, 9 crew members. We set up 8 interviews over the course of just in September. Out of the 8, there were 4 no-shows, and we did hire 3, offered for the 4th one, and the 4th one turned it down. Any position as far as if they have a CDL license or a 2A license, we basically tell them what our rate is. They submit their application, we call them up, we tell them what their rate is, and we haven't had one interview. They decline it. It's just, that's how the city is we're underpaying our CDL drivers and our 2A drivers. And it's really, I mean, if you drive around the corner and you see the poster board, what they're paying per hour, we're way under that. So it's an issue. The other thing what happens is we'll hire a laborer, we'll train them, we use city vehicles to train them. The city will pay for schooling. They'll get trained, they'll get their license, and
Off they go.
Off they go. We did put a clause in that if we pay for their schooling and they leave, I think if it's after a year, they have to pay us back, at least for the schooling, but it's a revolving door down here. I mean, we have the employees that have stayed here, that have been here, you know, years, but the new employees, we basically train them and they leave.
Okay.
And that
And
affects
is
our.
that based, and is the reason, do you think, primarily the rate?
Yes.
And what needs to be done about that? I mean, what can be done about that?
Well, the rate needs to be, I would.
And what's the process for doing that, I guess?
I would recommend a salary study of communities, like the same size as ours, local communities, and it would have to increase the price, the salary.
Okay, so is this something you brought up with the mayor, I assume?
Yeah, and for HR as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I understand, we're one fish in a fishbowl down here, but it's just, you know, come winter time, we don't have heavy trucks, we have 6 core individuals that will plow, and then we have laborers that, they're new, or they don't know their route, they haven't been trained as far as, because they haven't had a storm to kind of
Go through it.
go through with it, so, it's just something I wanted to make aware of.
Now, do we also have contractors for plowing? And
That's another issue is, our rate right now, I believe, we just increased it this winter, for 6%. It was at like $56 an hour, so whatever 6% over that is, so let's call it $60 an hour. We're paying an individual to bring their truck in, to plow, to pay for their own fuel, pay for their own insurance, and the state's paying $90 for the same one ton.
and they're advertising on the highways, yeah.
So, that's just something that the city should, keep in mind moving forward, as far as we're gonna have to do something with our rates.
Yeah.
And we're still down, we're down 1 highway, 1 municipal grounds, and 3 water and sewer positions as of now. So at least we got some laborers hired for the position, but
You were down 7 at one point, correct?
I think we were down to 8.
8.
So that's just
What has been the impact on providing service?
well, there's gonna be routes not covered, or maybe not necessarily covered, but let's say we have 25 plow routes in the city. We have that split up between a couple of contractors and the rest of our employees, so we set the trucks out. Well, now if we're 5 guys short, 5 employees short, we have to split those routes up, and we're not getting there. So,
It's promptly,
It's
As
problem.
fast as, yeah, as often on a big storm.
and then, and that goes with sanding and plowing and whatever else we.
sidewalks.
Yeah. So, go easy on us this winter.
Well, as long as, there's, and as the mayor indicated, or as HR indicated, that a salary, I know that there's, the mayor had indicated that there was a salary study being, that was gonna be conducted for department heads. And, or non-union employees. I don't know if that could be folded in, what you're looking for, be folded into that process. I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting you explore that, if you haven't, that you bring that to the mayor to find out, because I'm not sure what the status of that salary study is, but I know it was something that he had talked about and that there was a grant for it, so,
I will do so.
okay.
That's all I.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
No, we'll have to communicate patience during snowstorms.
Yeah. And rate increases, yeah.
Facebook's not kind when it comes to that kind of patience.
No, Facebook is not kind, period. Next, we have survey engineering.
So a few things. At our last meeting, we talked a little bit about some public outreach for the sludge landfill. I believe I sent you the graphic that our engineer had produced for us. I also created a new page on our website and put out that information up there. So that's posted in public. So the general public, if they'd like to learn a little bit more about the sludge landfill, they can do it at our website through the survey engineering page. So that's out there. Uptown Rotary, there's been a little action. I've got 2 appraisers under contract, and they're starting their work on property assessments for easements and compensation. So I have O'Hara and Boothray as the primary appraiser on those properties, and then the review appraiser is the Foster Company, which is out of Leominster. In talking to Mass DOT, they've worked with both those appraisers. Those appraisers have worked together in the same function. They'll be working for us on this project, so the reviewer from Mass DOT was happy that they were on board, had worked well with them in the past, so I hope that all goes fairly smoothly.
How many parcels are there?
There's 8. There was one I hoped would get back on, the American Legion. I thought, we're fixing their driveway and they're gonna come out of it with some benefits. I hope that they'd come back and, donate their easement, but I never heard back from them, so I have to move
They
it.
may need a tickle.
Yeah, someone there.
because the work hasn't been done yet, but it would have to happen soon. In other news, through the mayor's office, there was a grant through the state, it's called the Community Compact Grant. We ended up getting a $50,000 grant to look at Crystal Lake. There's no spillway at Crystal Lake other than a manual discharge that we've operated in the past when Crystal Lake starts to rise. I worry in a large flooding event, should a hurricane or something move through the city and dump a bunch of rain on us, there'd be flooding involved in Crystal Lake, because currently if it goes over, it's gonna go down Park Street and into the center of town.
Right.
So the grant we're gonna use with our engineer to look at options, so they'll do a feasibility study on both structural options, being create a spillway somewhere. It's been looked at a couple times over the years. I think the last time it was looked at was in the 80s, prior to that in the 60s. And there have been suggestions on what could be done. There was even a design back in the 60s, which never moved forward. So that's something that I've thought about, since coming on board, even back when I was assistant DPW director, we talked about it. Some of the things they'll look at, as well as structural options, are more natural options. Can we do some sort of infiltration around the lake that doesn't require building a spillway to reduce flooding in the event of a large rainstorm that might otherwise cause flooding? So they're going to look a little outside the box, and that's also good because if there is a feasible option, there could be money through the state, through the MVP program, because that's climate resiliency, so that would address it in a way that they're interested in seeing things done. So there could be
What
other
would something like
benefits.
that look like?
You'd be out in the watershed creating, infiltration basins that would just take overland flow through the watershed to then infiltrate it back into the ground, rather than, discharging it directly into the reservoir.
I see.
So to reduce flooding in a way that doesn't require otherwise doing a spillway.
And that could be done at Crystal Lake and probably also at Pearly Brook?
Yeah, I'm more interested in strictly in Crystal Lake, because if Crystal Lake floods, we have an issue.
That's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
But
it
and you
could
can
be-
restrict the flow, I assume, from Pearly Brook.
If we looked at those options as well, part of the problem is to do a spillway would actually be dumping it down into Pearly Brook. And that has its own issues because we have the dam there. So they have to look at the dam and what would happen if you added more.
Downstream?
Yeah, so we're taking water from Crystal Lake and putting somewhere.
That is up in Parker's Pond, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they have to look at the big picture. So that's, we have $50,000, it's a grant, so that was great, so we can get them started on that. And then the other thing that had come up is, Chris Coughlin had applied to the Long Island Sound Future Funds grant program, which is a program that's looking to reduce nitrogen into the Long Island Sound watershed, which we are part of, yes. So they look at sewer treatment facilities and reducing nitrogen there, so we had applied for a grant to upgrade our components dealing with nitrogen, which essentially is air blowers. We blow air into some of the treatment and you remove nitrogen that way. So our system, our components there are outdated, they need to be upgraded. We can reduce our nitrogen and comply with future mandates on nitrogen by addressing these systems. So we had applied for about a $1.5 million grant through this future funds. They, through the EPA and DEP, basically decided that there was a better pool of money that was suited to us, which is through the EPA, but still through the Long Island Sound watershed. So we actually met with DEP yesterday, and they were fairly confident there's a $4 million pool that right now it looks like the city of Chicopee is the main contender. They need it more than we do, but
Yeah, they're right on the Connecticut River.
yeah,
Yeah.
and apparently their treatment facilities aren't as as efficient as ours with nitrogen removal, so they're a
Higher priority.
they're higher priority, but DEP thought Gardner was a really good fit for this particular pool of grant money. And so what we're doing is, our engineer is gonna update our application to Long Island Sound watershed to then be reviewed by DEP and EPA. And hopefully, it seemed very positive that, you know, we'd be looking at some grant money there as well. And
What's the timeframe on it? Do you have it?
it's actually, they're moving us pretty quickly. They were gonna have some sort of preliminary draft decision in December, I think they said, and then EPA, I guess, makes the final decision after that. So we could know early winter.
But it's federal money that's funneled through the DEP?
Yep, yep. It's part, I forget what the acronym was, it was a long one, but,
As water and sewers ones tend to be.
yes, so that seemed like a positive. So the original grant we applied for, basically, they felt there was a better fit, so we got kicked out of that program, but moved into this one that DEP is handling, so we're hopeful we'll get something there.
Good.
So that's what I have for you.
Any questions about that? Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Trevor?
So for those of you who haven't met Sophie yet, this is Sophie Darrow, the new conservation planning agent.
Hello, Sophie.
Hi.
So,
Welcome.
She's
My
only
name
been on
is
a few
my name
days.
is Jim Walsh. I'm the chair of the committee. This is Alec Allowance, Ward 1, Ward 5 Counselor, and Counselor at Large George Tyros.
So she's only been on for a few days, so she hasn't been to any meetings yet or anything like that. So, and the only thing we really had to talk about was the update on the peer review, the sludge landfill, so we've already discussed that.
Anything else about the sludge landfill topic?
Not at this time.
Do you have anything to add?
Anything you want? Well, welcome. Hope it goes well for you. Anything else? Any councilor requests or?
the poles and the traffic lights on West Broadway, get looked at?
I've talked to Daryl, and I'll check in with him again. I know
Okay.
He's busy.
Yeah.
The issue is the pedestrian crossing lights.
That's what she's,
Function
the complaint is, yeah, I haven't seen it, in person, so it's the third.
Yeah, I haven't stood there and watched
Yeah.
go down to do that, so I know exactly what the issue is. I'll check in again and
Yeah.
see if we
I
can look at it.
think you said National Grid was going out to check to replace that pole at some point, right?
Yeah, that's on their radar.
Okay.
Yep.
I had a question, this just is looking more toward the spring, the asphalt and concrete contract that we have is through when?
It's good for 3 years. We renew it, we have the option to renew it every year. We bid it for 3 years.
But the current one that we have,
It's good till June 30th, and then we decide June 30th whether we're gonna renew it or go back out to bid.
well, I'm just, since we delayed the Lawrence Street sidewalk until the spring, I didn't know whether that might create an opportunity for it to get back into concrete rather than asphalt.
We'll get to that.
Well, since the rate for concrete was competitive with asphalt, I just thought that was, I know the work part of it is different,
Right.
but just like to see that looked at again now that we have some time.
One more question.
Sure.
The process of narrowing these streets, such as on Travis Street, the new section of land, is that the responsibility of the landowner next door to take care of the mowing?
Technically, yes. I mean, every landowner has city property that there's 8 to 10 feet of frontage that they typically would mow and take care of.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you wanted to, personally, if you didn't want to take care of it, it would just mean you'd have a 4-foot strip of grass.
And on these kickouts, is there a process of letting know the abutters that it's happening before it happens?
Sure, yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Anything else, George?
No, thank you for the updates.
Okay. I have nothing else, unless either of you do.
And that is it?
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you all. Good luck to you, Sophie.
Yes, good luck.